We decided to open a winery here because we live here, and we decided to focus on what's grown here because we didn't want to be in the position of having to ship grapes or juice from all across the country. That was before there was a large grape growing industry within the state of Wisconsin, which is why we focus on mead. At the time we were keeping bees and making a fair amount of honey, about 300 to 600 pounds a year, and trying to figure out what to do with it all. The market for honey, even on the roadside stand, wasn't real good at the time, so we were looking at value-added products that we could make, and mead just seemed to be the natural connection for us. Mead was used throughout history as a drink of celebrations, and unfortunately it's now probably the oldest unknown fermented beverage in the world. But mead is basically just a wine that's made with honey as the primary fermentable sugar. So still considered a wine, just a little different than a grape wine. We make a number of different varieties of mead. Traditional meads, which are simply just honey and water fermented out. The sweet mead, most like what you would have had back in the Middle Ages if you were hanging with the king and queen. It's very sweet. That's where the honeymoon tradition originated. Then we have the melomels in technical mead jargon, and a melomel is simply a mead made with fruit, where the fruit is added at the time of fermentation. And if you were hanging with the commoners back in the Middle Ages, you most likely would have had a mead made with fruit, because honey was a commodity item. It was tightly controlled by the royal house and the church. So when the commoners made mead, oftentimes they would add fruit to it to stretch it out and make it last a little bit longer. And it was also theorized that by adding fruit, it would cover up some of the odd fermentation flavors that would develop because of using natural yeast in the fermentation process. Our black mead, which is our driest, closest to what we would have to a drier red grape wine, made from black currants, or cassis as it's commonly known in Europe. We have a Sizer, and Sizer is Old English for cider, so it's made with fresh pressed apple cider and honey. Semi-sweet, probably closest comparable to a late harvest Riesling. And the blueberry is one of my personal favorites. Has this, on the sweeter end of the scale, has this really interesting spicy finish on it that I just love. We have an Acer that is a seasonal, and Acer is the genus name for the maple tree, so it's made with maple syrup and honey. We have a raspberry, which is a little sweeter dessert style with a nice full raspberry nose and mouth. We also do some hard ciders, a hard apple cider and a Perry, as well as our non-alcoholic sparkling fruit drinks, the spritz drinks in blueberry, raspberry, black currant, and strawberry. So the flavor profile of mead is different for every product that we make, and that's what's so fun about what we do, because we do have everything from a real dry red style to a very sweet traditional mead and everything in between. I was just a home brewer, and just a home brewer for a couple of years before we jumped into this on a commercial venture. So the learning curve for years was nearly straight up, nearly vertical, and it hasn't changed much from nearly vertical in the last 14 years. Every day is a new learning day, every day is a new learning opportunity, and it's really exciting because there's never a dull moment.